Hello everyone, and welcome to your weekly MTA plan work video for the Queens Subways and Long Island Railroad for the weekend of Friday, September 7th, 2018, and ending on Monday, September 10th, 2018. We have a lot to get into, familiar service changes that you might have seen from the past, some that are going to be familiar headaches, and some new ones, of course, and one very familiar headache we will get to on the Long Island Railroad. That's the only plan service change I can confirm to you as I'm recording this video. So without further ado, Queens Subways first, and then Long Island Railroad last. First up, is there any work on the 7? Due to the high demand for travel to Willets Point this weekend, 7 service will not at all be impacted. We have 2 big events this weekend taking place around the area of Willets Point. This Sunday, September 9th, Jacob deGrom will be pitching for the New York Mets against the Philadelphia Phillies with the best ERA in baseball. His ERA is 1.68, and this event will be taking place at Citi Field. So I'm assuming a lot of people are going to be going to Citi Field for this big event. I also want to mention that there could be some Philly fans there because the Phillies are chasing for a playoff spot, so it's a very big deal for them as well. And of course, we have the finals of the U.S. Open taking place at Arthur Ashe Stadium. So today, I know the women's final is taking place, and then sometime this weekend, either tomorrow or Sunday, we have the men's final. So the U.S. Open's going to be wrapping up this weekend, so that's a very big deal that 7 service is not touched at all this weekend. And also, good news, randomly I'm going to bring this up on the Long Island Railroad, even though I'm not a big deal, but no PTC work at all this weekend on the Port Washington branch. So pretty much the positive train control testing, whatever they've planned, they're probably going to do it next weekend if they have to. But if they don't and it's somewhat completed, that's very good news for people going to Mets Willets Point. So obviously the Long Island Railroad knew as well that this was going to be a big weekend. But later on, when I talk about the Long Island Railroad, I will talk about the temporary platform situation, because you may have to plan for it if you're transferring at Woodside again, because that's how this railroad works. They tell you last minute we're putting the temporary platforms in. So just be prepared for that if you are going to be transferring at Woodside this weekend for service to Mets Willets Point. Partial M train service this weekend. This is only going to be taking place tomorrow. So it'll be Saturday, September 8th, 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Free buses and or the J trains will replace M trains between Delante Essex Street and Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn due to structural maintenance. So later on, I want to quickly mention this has a lot to do with the J trains. So that's why I'm bringing up Brooklyn here, because it's going to cause a headache for people coming from Queens. So that's why I'm bringing it up. But anyhow, M service will be running between Metropolitan Avenue and Myrtle Avenue. So good news is in Middle Village, M service will be running. So if you are in Middle Village and you need service this weekend to Bushwick, you will be able to get service to Myrtle Avenue this weekend. For service between Delante Essex Street and Hughes Street, please use shuttle buses. For service between Hughes Street and Myrtle Avenue, take the J train. Note, M service between Forest Hills 71st Avenue and Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn will end at 8:15 p.m. on Friday night. So, once again, if you need service to Delante Essex Street at all this weekend, between Delante Essex and Hughes, please use the shuttle bus. And if you need service on the J train, you can connect with the J at Hughes Street, and you can connect that way. More importantly, once again, M service in Bushwick will be available at Myrtle Avenue. So pretty much this is very organized. The MTA planned ahead for this. This is why it's called plan work, because they know what they're doing and they're helping people get around from this situation. So the buses will be available. Pretty much you're going to have partial M service, and of course the J will be available on a line that it normally isn't available on. So very good news on that front, and I will recap it again in the J train slide later on in this video. So how is this going to impact the R train? Good news is R train service in Queens will not be impacted. So if you want local service along the Queens Boulevard main line, please use the R this weekend. We have one minor change, Friday, September 7th to the 10th, which is Monday, 9:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Uptown R trains will skip 49th Street due to electrical improvements. So you have two options. I didn't type it up in the PowerPoint, but I remembered it by heart, of course. Number one, if you want service to 49th Street, what you can do is you can take the Uptown train to 57th Street, 7th Avenue station, and you can transfer to a downtown train. So you have that option. Two, like most normal people in Manhattan, you can walk from Times Square, 42nd Street. I can confirm to you that if you want the walk to be a little bit less, there is an exit at the 42nd Street shuttle train area. If you can get to the 42nd Street shuttle, there is an exit right there. It's not a turnstile. It's one of those big turnstile things. You can go upstairs, and it will take you right to 43rd Street. So that is the exit for 43rd Street. So if you don't want to deal with that, that's what I'm telling you to do right now. But again, you can go to 57th Street, 7th Avenue, like I mentioned, and you can take the downtown train to 49th Street if you're that desperate. Now for the E, I actually typed this up because I had a hard time figuring it out, because yours truly knows the R train very well, and that's why I remembered by heart how to help the people who need to go to 49th Street Station this weekend. Also, I quickly want to mention, if you are seeking service to LaGuardia Airport from the Q70 and you're at 49th Street, once again, I'm going to mention this now. You can backtrack to 42nd Street and go that way. That's what I would do to save the headache, because I'd say to myself, okay, I'm walking like an idiot here, but at least I know this guy told me that if I am coming from Times Square direct and I have my luggage, I can just take the R train and then connect with the Q70 that way. So yeah, just want to remind you all that. So on to the E train. Friday, September 7th for the 10th, 9:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Uptown, A, C, and E train. So this is going to impact the A and the C as well. We'll skip Spring Street and 23rd Street due to electrical improvements. For service to Spring Street, transfer to a downtown train at West 4th Street, Washington Square. So you do have that option to go over there and transfer to a downtown train. I know it's going to be a little bit of a headache, but that's what you have to do after Canal Street. Because once you go past Canal Street and you're going uptown and you're wondering yourself, why isn't the train stopping at Spring Street? Well, now I'm warning you. So if you are coming from, let's say, Brooklyn on the A or the C line, please remember that. So I don't want anybody getting confused, of course. For service to 23rd Street, you can transfer to a downtown train at 34th Street Penn Station. So that is very good news. Now, if somehow there is an issue with this problem, if you can get to a ticket agent or, the token booth, complain to them and let them know what happened. If, you're trying to get to those stations and somehow you can't walk across the platform, because honestly, this is this should be accommodated this weekend. There's no excuses. Bottom line, that's all I'm going to say on that. But if you want service, just transfer to a downtown train. Once again, Spring Street, West 4th Street, Washington Square, and 23rd Street, you can transfer at 34th Street, Penn Station. We have also this interesting headline. Saturday, September 8th through Monday, September 10th, 12:01 a.m. to 5 a.m. E-trains are going to be running local in both directions between Forest Hills 71st Avenue and Jackson Heights Roosevelt Avenue due to signal modernization. So good news for people going to the Queens Center Mall this weekend. You do not have to transfer at Forest Hills 71st Avenue for service to the Woodhaven Boulevard station. A little bit similar with the F, because here's the thing. With the E, I'm going to confirm this again. Is it similar? Yeah, it is similar. It's the same thing. So, pretty much with the E, and I'll highlight it again, between Forest Hills and Jackson Heights. Yes, this is the same thing. So, also, if you're coming from Jamaica, if you're coming from Kew Gardens, the good news is you can also take the F train to Woodhaven Boulevard Station this weekend for service to the Queens Center Mall. So that's very good news that they're making up pretty much the lack of local service in a way between Elmhurst and Forest Hills. So pretty much the people in Elmhurst, Regal Park, and Forest Hills, you should be breathing a sigh of relief knowing that you have a little bit more local service this weekend. That's very good news. The signal modernization project, again, same time frame as the E-train. So this is very good news. Very good news. No J-train this weekend due to structural improvements in Brooklyn. Friday, September 7th. So Monday, September 10th, 9:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Free buses and or the 4, 6, and F trains will replace J trains between Hughes Street and Broad Street due to structural improvements. J trains will run between Jamaica Center and Hughes Street. Buses run between Hughes Street and Delonte Essex Street. Transfer between trains and buses at Hughes Street and or Delonte Essex Street F train station. For service between Delonte Essex Street and Broad Street, use a 6 train to and from nearby stations via transfer at Bleecker Street or Broadway Lafayette Street. Transfer to and from the 4 train at Brooklyn Bridge Station. For service to and from Manhattan, you can use the A, C, or L train and via transfer at Broadway Junction. N train. Same thing I mentioned earlier with the R. We have the electrical improvements, so Uptown Ends will also be skipping 49th Street due to the electrical improvement project in Manhattan, which again is the next station right in the Times Square area. So that's why I mentioned the R train. So it applies to you if you're on the N train. Once again, you can transfer at 57th Street, 7th Avenue, and you can take a downtown train to 42nd Street, Times Square. Now we have a big problem in Astoria. This is the same time frame. Free buses are going to be replacing N trains between Astoria, Ditmars Boulevard, and Queensboro Plaza due to track replacement. So pretty much the MTA lied to us. They said last month it was supposed to be all finished, but now I'm going to have to point the finger at the Broadway Station project because they're still doing construction on that station. I'm going to confirm the stations that are done because I'm just annoyed with this whole station rehabilitation project in Astoria. So I'll quickly read along here. End service will run between Queensboro Plaza and Stillwell Avenue, Coney Island. Free shuttle buses will make all end stops between Ditmars Boulevard and Queensboro Plaza. Transfer between trains and buses at Queensboro Plaza. Train options at Queens Plaza are the 7, E, F, N, and R lines. So, I'm going to make a little bit of an epic rant here. And again, I'm pointing the finger, everyone. this is a big deal. Literally 36th Street and 36th Avenue and 30th Avenue, excuse me there, because I'm just so annoyed about this Astoria thing. They get brand new stations. Brand new, beautiful stations in Astoria. And yet Broadway, literally a big shopping plaza by 21st Street. You literally cannot have access to that shopping plaza from that station because that station's still in construction, and we don't expect it to be open until February of 2019. Well, you know who's losing business in that area? The shopping plaza. You have the Bel Air Diner, you have the big supermarket over there, and of course, it's a major transfer point at 21st Street for people who are trying to get to Queensbridge. So no, we don't care about that. You can't make this stuff up with the MTA. I am pointing the finger at the Broadway Station project. They're still working on it, and if they have to replace the tracks at Broadway, then they have to. So that's why there's probably no service on the Ditmars Boulevard line this weekend, or the Astoria line, because once again, Broadway's still in construction. So you have to point the finger at that project. So just take the buses. That's all I'm going to say, because hopefully it'll save you a headache. And if you are going to Citi Field on Sunday from Astoria, or if you are going to the U.S. Open from Astoria, just please plan extra travel time using the buses if you are going to be transferring to the 7 train at Queens Plaza. So just please remember that. G-Trains! Now this is something I've not done before. I forgot about the G-Train because it starts at Court Square, 23rd Street in Queens. 9:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Free buses are going to be replacing G-Train service between Bedford Nostrand Avenue and Court Square. G service will operate between Church Avenue and Bedford Nostrand Avenue. Transfer between G trains and buses at Bedford Nostrand Avenue. Alright, so leave it here one more time. I apologize about that. I want to take a look at it one more time. Hopefully at your station they will let you know about this, and you can get a picture of the flyer that they normally post at your stations. Please do so, but at least you're going to have service by bus. So that's good news in a way, I guess. But I know people don't want to deal with buses, but that's what happens. You can't control it. And more importantly, again, if you're going to be going to Court Square 23rd Street for service to the 7 train from Brooklyn, just remember, please plan extra travel time. So I don't want anybody, getting confused, of course. And lastly, the A train. 10 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Late night A shuttle trains will run between Lefferts Boulevard and Rockaway Boulevard due to track maintenance. So, I'm not really going to go in depth with the A train because that's normally Matt Camper or Jason Anthony's specialty, because I only do Queens subways. And as I mentioned before with the M train, I did it because it impacts the J train in a big way in Queens, so that's why I had to quickly mention Brooklyn, of course, which I really don't like to mention it because, once again, Queens is my top priority with the subways here, and pretty much the whole network has been covered in Queens, of course, by yours truly. So, Queens subways, we are at the end of this PowerPoint presentation. Now I'm going to take you to the Long Island Railroad's website, where we have to talk about, yet again, the double track project on the Ronkonkoma branch. Yep, this is the right information, everyone. Unfortunately, we have the double track project construction work again on the Ronkonkoma branch. And again, a very bad weekend for this to be happening because I talked about what happened at Willets Point. And pretty much this is going to go on for 2 consecutive weekends. So I'll remind you all again about this next weekend, of course. But here we go. September 8th and the 9th and the 15th and the 16th. Buses are going to be replacing weekend trains between Ronkonkoma and Hicksville due to, of course, construction related to the double track project, which, of course, we all know who the supervisor is. Mr. Plika, the Executive Vice President of Operations of the Long Island Railroad. Sir. Of course, they are recommending people to use the Babylon, Montauk, or Huntington, Port Jefferson branches on these weekends, this weekend, and of course next weekend, to avoid busing and delays. So, pretty much, I'm not going to go in depth about this because, you know, it's just crazy. I get annoyed about this double track thing, and it really needs to be expanded, but this is what you get with all the bad on-time performance numbers that came out earlier this week, and now this. So we'll go back. Of course, I had programmed the presentation perfectly this week. Yes, so this is the main planned service changes video for the Long Island Railroad. That wraps up this because nothing else is scheduled. No scheduled PTC work on the Port Washington branch this weekend. That's a little bit surprising because I thought they would do the early morning work and then resume regular service, but it looks like for now there will be regular service on the Port Washington branch this weekend. That's very important to know that once again for the big events at Willets Point this weekend. Next 2 weekends, another big headache for the Ronkonkoma branch. And I quickly want to mention about the temporary platforms. Number 1, there is a concert this weekend at Forest Hill Stadium. You must exit and enter from the first 4 cars if you are going to be using Forest Hills train station this weekend for the special concert. I know there are a few more concerts scheduled until the end of this month. I can confirm to you that because I did see the schedule at Cedarhurst earlier this week. They did have it right there because they probably assume people transfer at Jamaica for connecting service to Forest Hills anyway. But yeah, just please be aware that you have to exit and enter from the first 4 cars if you go into the concert tomorrow, September 8th. And number 2, just be prepared, everyone. I know the Long Island Railroad did this last night, screwing people again at Woodside, Forest Hills, and Kew Gardens. Just please be prepared for temporary platforms. I know when we had the Dropkick Murphys concert earlier this summer, people were complaining about the temporary platform situation at Forest Hills. So I'm warning you now. I'm going to tell everybody on the record. It's a little bit of a schlep. If you don't want to deal with temporary platforms, you have 2 options in Forest Hills. You can take the Q60 bus on Queens Boulevard and go to Jamaica, or just take the E train at Forest Hills and go that way. Because if I was going back to Long Island, I'd be like, I'm not dealing with this. I would just be taking the E train to Sutphin Boulevard Station and then just go upstairs and wait for my train and connect there. Because honestly, I wouldn't want to deal with temporary platforms. But thankfully, yours truly, if I were to go to any concert at Forest Hills, would have transportation. And honestly, I wouldn't even go to Jamaica. I would just go right back to Kew Gardens to get the Q46. But that's another story for another day. So once again, just please be prepared for any temporary platforms east and westbound at the following stations this weekend: Woodside, Forest Hills, and Kew Gardens. They're going to tell you last minute, but I'm going to warn you now because I know what this railroad, they will do it. So no need to rant and rave about it. So that ends the video for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I will remind everybody again about the double track work next weekend. So, of course, I'll do that because it's very important I get that information out. So if it's the last weekend, I'll go more in depth next weekend, I guess, since, I made this video longer than it really needed to be. So just remember, plan extra travel time like I always say. So until the next one, please take care.